What's going on, Knicks fans? Hope everyone's having a good day. The NBA draft is today, so it's definitely a good day in the association. And with the Knicks, the rumors are hot right now. According to Ian Begley, Paul George is a player that the Knicks have talked with about the Los Angeles Clippers. We're going to break that down. Also, reports are coming out that there are people inside the Knicks front office that are very, very fond of Donte DiVincenzo. Also, we got the latest coming up on Obi Toppin after reports coming out yesterday that following Game 4 against the Miami Heat, there was a little bit of a scuffle between Thibodeau and Toppin. Trade rumors are buzzing. We'll break that down. And also, there's some teams, according to Ian Begley of SNY, that Miles McBride is a player that some rival teams are looking to trade for. And also, coming in from Stephen Bondi, could Evan Fournier be traded? I'm keeping my eyes on San Antonio. We're going to break all the rumors around the Knicks. There's a lot to talk about, so buckle up. Let's get it going. But first, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel because we are going live on the channel. Every pick of the NBA draft, myself, Patrick Seatman, we're going to break it down. We'll be live an hour before pick 1 gets announced. So subscribe, turn your notifications on, and join us tonight on Knicks Now by Chat Sports for live NBA draft coverage. Let's start it off with Paul George, the biggest star that is being rumored to be a guy the Knicks are targeting. Reports are coming out that the Knicks and Clippers have had contact about a potential Paul George trade. I have a lot of thoughts about Paul George, and I'll share those in a second. But I think it's pretty interesting timing, right? Look, it's draft day, but just a couple of days ago, Mark Stein had this to say about Paul George and Kawhi Leonard and the latest around the Clippers, saying league sources told him that the Clippers have left various rival teams with the impression through their draft week conversations that they are, at a minimum, attempting to gauge Paul George's trade value, and to hear some describe it giving real consideration to the idea of disabling the Kawhi and Paul George tandem. This is very intriguing, and I think it makes a lot of sense for the New York Knicks, but I definitely have my concerns about trading for a guy like Paul George. There's no doubt that he is one of the best players in the association when healthy. And let's talk about it. He's a perfect on-court fit. If you are going to bring Paul George into the New York Knicks, he fits perfectly like a glove. And that's really on any type of team. That's what I love about Paul George's game so much. He can fit wherever he goes. You drop him, he can not be a knockdown shooter, catch and shoot. He can create for others. He can get to the rim. He can score at all three levels. Doesn't need the ball to be super effective, but he's also an elite defender. Great couple of seasons pieced together here by Paul George. 23.8 points per game, 6.1 rebounds, 5+ assists, and the efficiency is incredible. 45% plus from the deck and 37% from downtown. When you're talking about Paul George as the basketball player, you have to include him in probably your top 15, top 20 players in the association, and that's why the Knicks have their eyes on him. But a concern that I have is he's 33 years old. And look, you don't last forever in the NBA, and it seems like Father Time, while it hasn't caught up to Paul George at the age of 33, he's not that same guy that he was a couple of years ago, and that's just going to happen. But also a sign that I think Father Time is catching up a little bit are the injuries. It is unfortunate that Paul George has not been able to run away from the injury bug and escape it. And it sucks because he's missed so much time over the last couple of seasons. He has played in less than 57 games in each of the last 4 seasons. The guy hasn't played in 60 games in 5 years. He's a great player, but if you're not available, that's really frustrating because you need to be on the court if you're going to be able to help the New York Knicks. And at the age of 33, I don't just expect all of a sudden Paul George to become a very durable player overnight. Maybe the load management is happening more in LA than it does in New York, but I don't ever see Paul George really as a guy that's probably going to play all 82 or 75 games. You never know. And he's also coming off a knee injury that he's probably going to have surgery on if he already didn't. The last thing I want to say about Paul George, it's a really interesting contract, and it kind of fits the timeline of the New York Knicks. He's really only on the books for one more season unless he opts in to that $48.7 million player option that he has in the 2024-2025 season. And I could see him opting into that contract. Hard to pass up $48.7 million when he's going to be 35 years of age at this point. Also, so he has a player option in 2024. Jalen Brunson has a player option for 2025, and Julius Randle has a player option for 2025, 2026 as well. So all around that time, the Knicks could have a completely reset a roster, and it's really not much of a risk. And I think it is worth the risk at the right price for Paul George. If you're going to make a move for him, you absolutely become a better team. But at what cost? And how much are you willing to risk? And I'm not willing to risk all of my assets. I would make a trade for Paul George, but I'm not trading Emmanuel Quickly. I'm not trading Quentin Grimes. I might trade Mitchell Robinson, but I don't want to. I don't want to trade R.J. Barrett. So this is the offer that I would give to the Los Angeles Clippers for Paul George. I'll give you Obi Toppin. I'll give you an expiring deal of Derrick Rose. I'll give you an expiring deal of Evan Fournier. And I'll give you 2 first-round picks. I'll give you that Dallas Mavericks pick, which is top 10 protected in the 2024 NBA draft. And I'll give you the Milwaukee Bucks pick, which is top 3 protected in 2025. So you get 2 first-round picks if you're the Clippers. You get pretty much $32 million in expiring deals and Derrick Rose and Evan Fournier. And you maybe, if you think so, get an intriguing young piece in Obi Toppin. I'm not trading the farm. He's 33, injuries, and he's due $85, $90 million over the next 2 years. But would you make this trade? Let's say this was a deal that was potentially being talked about when Begley reported the Clippers and Knicks have been in communication. Would you do it? Obi, Derrick Rose, Evan Fournier, 2 first-round picks, type A for accept, type D for decline. Story number 2 in today's show, according to that same report from Ian Begley and SNY, influential Knicks members are fans of the idea of adding Donte DiVincenzo. There are people inside the building at Madison Square Garden under the leadership of Leon Rose and Worldwide West that are fans of Donte DiVincenzo. And I'm a fan of it. We've talked about it on the channel as well. Let's get the Villanova band back together. The more Villanova, the more Nova players you have on a team, you're probably going to be doing things right. And at the end of the day, you got Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart. And if Jalen Brunson says, yo, Leon Rose, I want the big ragu, Donte DiVincenzo in New York, you kind of have to do it, don't you? And he's a good player. It's not like the guy is some scrub. He had his best season of his NBA career in Golden State this past year, averaging 9+ points per game. Also gave you 3.5 dimes, 1.3 steals. He's a good on-ball defender, but this year he became an elite three-point shooter, knocking it down at a 39.7% clip. Very similar to what he did in 2020 when he knocked it down at 37.9%. Questionable years in 2019 and 2021, but you have 2 good years of 66-plus games in 2020 and 2022. A little bit worried about the Golden State Warriors factor with DiVincenzo, but he's a good player. What's it going to cost, though, for the Knicks in free agency? They don't have much salary cap space, if at all, unless they make trades for Fournier and Obi Toppin and a couple more moves. But they do have 2 available exceptions. The non-taxpayer mid-level exception and the biannual exception. That's the one that I think Donte DiVincenzo would command. Maybe a 2-year deal, $15 million. Use that biannual exception on DiVincenzo. I'd be a fan of that move, especially if you end up trading Obi Toppin. That's what Begley talked about. He said if the Knicks do move on from Obi Toppin, they're going to have to fill up his minutes and find someone that could be a rotational player. And then he followed it up and said there's people in the building that are fans of the big ragu. But do you think they should sign him? Should Leon Rose sign Donte DiVincenzo in NBA free agency? What do you think? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Sound off for me. Moving along on today's show, Obi Toppin. We know the trade rumors have been hot around Toppin. There was a recording. Don't know if it's real or if it's not, but it sounds like Obi Toppin was yelling at Tom Thibodeau in the hallways in the Miami Heat's arena following Game 4. You can go to my Twitter, @MarshallGreen_. I retweeted it. You can go listen to it over there. He said, yo, what the hell are you doing? Obi's minutes were severely cut in Game 4. He said, this guy can't coach. And supposedly it got even a little bit physical and they had to be separated. But these are all rumors at this point. Begley is now saying Toppin and the Knicks could work together to get a deal done, as reports came out yesterday, like we talked about, that Obi pretty much wants to be traded, according to Steve Popper and Stephen Bonnie. And the situation sucks, man. You use a top 10 pick on a guy like Obi that you expected to be a part of this organization for the foreseeable future. But you also didn't think that Julius Randle at the time would turn into a perennial All-NBA player in the next 2 years. So unfortunate for Obi, but at the end of the day, got to kind of blame yourself a little bit. I know he never really got the minutes that he probably needed to fully flourish as an NBA player, but I just feel like he went the wrong way in the developmental route. Maybe that was what the New York Knicks wanted him to do. I thought early in his career he was really good at getting downhill, attacking the basket. I thought he should play like an Aaron Gordon type of power forward, but he turned into more of just a guy that ran three-point line to three-point line and jacked threes. He's not a good defender. He is not a guy that really understands defensive concepts all that well. Go watch the film. And Tom Thibodeau was not the biggest fan of him. And you also got Julius Randle making a lot of money as your starting power forward. And I haven't seen really much evidence that Obi and Randle can play together. The thing that really hurts, though, is when he played as a starter and he got big minutes for the New York Knicks, he was productive. And I don't think Obi's a scrub at all. I believe Obi's going to have a long, successful career in the NBA. I just don't think it's going to be with the Knicks or as long as Julius Randle is a part of this team. I mean, 15 games started is no small sample size for Obi, and he gave you 21 points per night, 5 plus 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and gave you 57.6 efficiency from the deck and over 44% from downtown. While I don't think he could do that for a full season, I definitely think Obi could be a piece on a winning basketball team. I just don't know if that's with the New York Knicks. Let's show him some love, though, because if we've seen the last of Obi in the orange and blue, it's definitely a little bit upsetting. So show our man, Obi Toppin, New York's own, some love in the comments. Type his jersey number 1 down below. 2 more topics to quickly talk about. Miles McBride, one of my favorite players on the Knicks. Shout out to my man Nick Roloff producing the video. You want to give the call real quick? Let's get the call from Rolly. If we get it one more time in our career, let's get it.
Deuce with a deuce.
Deuce McBride. If you were watching our watch parties during the year, whenever Deuce got in the game, it was a whole lot of fun. And he's a talented player, and there's a reason teams are calling to trade for Deuce McBride, because he's making $1.8 million next season for the New York Knicks. It's a contract that's really coveted across the league. I don't think he could be your first guard off the bench, but if he's your second guard off the bench, gives you that nice defense that he does, energy and effort, you're not going to be upset with a guy like Deuce McBride. Maybe the Knicks trade him for a second-round pick in this draft. I would not do so. I do not want to move on from Deuce unless he's a part of a trade for a star. The stats aren't all appealing. They're not all that sexy. But, man, what about that series of plays that he had in round 1 against the Cleveland Cavaliers? Got a steal, made a pull-up 3. I respect the dude, no doubt about it. And it would suck to see him go, and I hope the Knicks don't just move on him off of Deuce McBride for scraps. If he's a part of a deal that's a star, maybe the Clippers want him for Paul George. Sorry, I would do it, but I don't want to see him go. But everyone's got a price. But shout out to Deuce, man. He's a freaking worker. Love that guy. Evan Fournier, last thing we're going to talk about. Fournier's camp and the Knicks are working toward finding a trade destination per Stephen Bondy. This seems like a long time coming, right? Got benched in the middle of the season. Can't believe people still thought he should have played in that Miami Heat series. It just didn't work. Had one good year, set the Knicks all-time three-pointer made in a season record. I think that was last year or the year before. But this year, the young kids, it was time. Grimes needed more minutes and quickly needed more minutes. I'm keeping my eyes, though, on the San Antonio Spurs if they do trade Evan Fournier. Fournier, Victor Wembanyama, expected to be the first pick of the draft, are both Frenchmen, and supposedly they have a relationship. And I could see the Spurs wanting to get some people he's familiar with, he being Wemby, around him. So I'm keeping my eyes on the Spurs. And they do obviously have picks number 1. They also have pick number 33 and 44. 44 is the pick, though, that I'm keeping my eye on. It may have to be Fournier in a second for 44. Maybe you just trade Fournier to the Spurs. They absorb that salary. You don't take any oncoming salary back. But the Spurs, if I had to be a betting man, which I am, I would bet on the Spurs to be the number 1 Evan Fournier destination. I appreciate all you guys for tuning in to Knicks Now. Long video today, but we had a bunch to talk about as rumors are heating up because the NBA offseason is here. Appreciate you guys as always. Remember, join us tonight. Draft, live coverage. Me, Seeps, the crew, we're riding. Let's go. See you tonight. Let's go.